He would put up a sign, and the sign would say, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It wasn't a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He would just write that on the building.
So the dude who baptized Billy Johnson, the Renegade Mormon, has a grandson serving with the Renegade Mormon's grandson.
This is gonna be the best day ever. This is gonna be the best day ever. Wake up.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Ward Radio Morning Edition. I'm your host, Cardinellis, and today I am joined via Zoom by none other than Jonah Barnes, the Associate Professor of all things apocryphal, as well as our African correspondent here, Luke Hansen. Of course, I guess I have to clarify African. You served your mission in Africa.
I'm African American. I'm African American, not African.
That hyphen does not work, Member, but white member who served in Africa, you know what I'm saying? With a purple shirt on, none other than Luke Hansen, all right, who served his mission in Ghana, who is going to provide us some really interesting cultural insight and commentary to a great, heartwarming story that we have here from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, descendants of two Latter-day Saint pioneers and missionaries in Ghana have become missionary companions. And if I got this straight, Jonah, correct me if I'm wrong, that one of the first American missionaries who baptized an African, that African's grandson is now mission companions with the grandson of the American missionary in like the 60s or 70s or 80s or something. Clarify what's going on. Tell us what's up, Jonah. And then Luke, tell us why this is so cool. So Jonah Barnes, go.
Yes. So just to clarify something. So I dated a girl who, Terrell Givens. Terrell Givens' wife, Fiona Givens, was born and raised in Kenya. Okay, so she's really African American. Now she's British because it was a British colony, but she's African American.
It's like when people on Twitter try and say that Elon Musk is African American.
African American.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Great.
So you never know. So you think that Luke couldn't be African, but there's careful. But anyway.
Oh no, one of our APs. White as can be. White as me. Yep.
Oh yeah.
From South Africa.
Yeah.
Wow.
How's it going? Yeah.
It's a diverse place. It's a large place. But one awesome African that we're going to talk about was Joseph William Johnson, or Billy Johnson. He is famous in African lore.
Really?
I concur.
This guy is amazing. So once upon a time, back in the 60s.
Or what did he do, man? You're talking like he's like Santa Claus or like Jeremiah Johnson or something.
Well, okay, just wait. So this dude is living in Ghana back in the 1960s. He discovers the Book of Mormon and some writing from the Church of Jesus Christ. He reads the thing. He knows that it's true. He's completely converted to this, but the church isn't in Ghana. It's nowhere around there. No one is doing Facebook ads for free copies of the Book of Mormon back then.
Oh, true.
And Luke Hansen hasn't even been born then. So what are you supposed to do? So he does what any of us would do. He founds 10 different unofficial LDS congregations with about 500 members.
Wait, I think I've heard Kwaku talk about this, like where they kind of just like went rogue and did their own church without like official. So that's the apocryphal story that's true.
Dude, it's true.
Okay, keep going.
He did correspond, like he got materials and stuff from church headquarters, but they were like, that's about all we can do because it's not 1978 yet.
Yeah,
they just kind of did this was pre the lifting of, oh my goodness gracious. What a Chad.
Dude, what a Chad.
Okay.
So this is Giga Chad level, LDS Giga Chad S tier. So in the Discord, we have there's a picture, a black and white picture of one of his unofficial LDS congregations. And I don't know if this is actually one of his, but this happened all across the west coast of Africa.
Is it this one Africa with people in all white clothing that looks almost like they're going to get baptized?
That's one of the congregations.
Okay, all right, rock on.
So he founded these things, and he would put up a sign, and the sign would say, "The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints." It wasn't a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He would just write that on the building. He'd just say,
"We're really doing it." Copyright law over there.
Are you kidding me?
No, he did it for like 10 different congregations. He had 500 people totally committed and attending this church and reading the doctrine and the scriptures and everything. So much so that there were a bunch of local pastors from other Christian churches who would come to him and they'd say, look, dude, we'll offer you a job, full-time pastor position. You bring your congregation here, we'll pay you.
Is that what this picture in the Discord is of LDS building Mormons reside here?
I sent that in. That's kind of a fun stuff for later.
Oh, okay, cool. Excellent. Keep going, Jonah.
So anyway, so Billy, he is solicited by these other local congregations saying, hey man, you bring those members over here, we'll make you full-time pastor. We'll offer you money to a full-time job. And he turns them all down. He waits over 10 years in writing letters to the church, requesting information, essentially telling the leaders of the church back then, your ban on me having the priesthood is not scriptural. Get with the program, guys, and come over here and organize the church. And for 10 years, the church is like, what are we supposed to do with this?
Okay, so I have to read the opening headline of this article. Descendants of Latter-day Saint pioneer and missionaries in Ghana become missionary companions. So when two full-time missionaries became companions in the Accra, Ghana mission of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, they found a shared history that has its roots in the very beginnings of the church, not only in Ghana, but in all of West Africa, where our boy Luke Hansen served. Elder Martel Johnson from the Twifu Hemong branch in the Twifu Praso Ghana district is the grandson of Joseph William Billy Johnson, the first member of the church in Ghana. And Elder Ezra LaBelle, like Patti LaBelle, one of my favorite vocal artists, rock on. Elder Ezra LaBelle from the Valley View 5th Ward in the Salt Lake Valley View stake is the great-grandson of Rendell N. Mabe, who baptized Billy Johnson. So the dude who baptized Billy Johnson, the Renegade Mormon, has a grandson serving with the Renegade Mormon's grandson. This is awesome. Now, I do have to say, the names of their two branches totally show the cultural difference here. Like, you got the American guy coming from a very boringly named Valley View 5th Ward in Salt Lake Valley View Stake. Meanwhile, this homeboy, you know what I'm saying, Martel Johnson, is coming from the Twifu Hemong branch in the Twifu Praso Ghana district. I'm like, that sounds... did I botch the pronunciation?
No, you mostly got it. There's kind of like a play going on there.
That is
that was in my mission.
Really?
In my mission.
Cool.
I never made it out there. Yeah, the Chief of Praso, I believe, was taken from the Accra mission into our mission. Just 2 years before I got there.
So tell us how cool this is. Tell us how cool this is.
Just to wrap up the story. So there's a photograph of the Mabies baptizing. I think this is a photograph of Elder Rendell Mabie, who was sent over there with his wife as the first missionaries in 1978. Baptizing Billy Johnson and his congregation. It's kind of grainy. It's not the one.
Oh, it's this one, right? No, it's this picture, right? No, I'm going to get it. It's coming up. Nope. That one right here in this big giant lake, right? Where it looks like they almost went to Disneyland in that they made a movie out of it with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Jungle Cruise. Yeah. It almost looks like where they have the boats in Jungle Cruise.
Yes, they actually based Jungle Cruise off of this event. It passed through a lot of medieval monks and was a perverted story, but the roots of it are here. But yeah, funny. So he actually baptized this dude, and unbeknownst to either of these elders, they were put together as mission companions. It's kind of a cool story.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is so absolutely cool, man. Now, so Luke, this has to be this is probably a big deal over there, right? Is this kind of one of those? Okay, tell us.
Oh yeah, everybody's heard about this guy. I think it's the YouTube channel Lifey. Is that what it is? Where they would interview missionaries when they came back from their mission. This was like 8 years ago.
Yeah,
that this was happening. The guy from the Ghana Cape Coast mission that they interviewed, that was one of his segments, was how big of a deal this Billy Johnson guy is over there. Unfortunately, I never got to meet him. I did get to meet somebody else who was there for the lifting of the priesthood ban. They're cheering and they're getting baptized, and it's just an awesome thing. But when you told me there was a story about the grandsons of two of like the pioneers, I didn't dare to hope that it was Billy Johnson's grandson. I was like, oh, it was some other guy. Like, no, but this is like the guy who started the church in the northern African continent. South Africa already had a little because there was the Dutch down there, but man, that is so crazy.
Yeah, and for those of us that have served overseas, it really is cool. Like I served people don't realize this, but before missionaries even really went to Mexico and Central America, sometimes people think that the gospel like traveled down from America until it finally made it to South America, forgetting that we actually flew over or boated past Central America and Mexico to try and start the church. And I think Parley P. Pratt went to Chile, but all of the land south of the U.S. border was dedicated for the preaching of the gospel in my mission in Buenos Aires North. People don't realize that it was in like the teens or the 20s. The famine that preceded the outbreak of violence in like World War I and World War II and so on and so forth made it so that a lot of European families, especially German families in the late 1800s, had left Germany in order to settle in South America. And the reason why there were so many Nazis that fled to South America after World War II was because they'd already had 1 or 2 or 3 generations of family members that had grown up out there and established German colonies. In fact, up until 1989, I believe the stat is, if I remember correctly, my mission not only had English and Spanish speaking missionaries, Castellano being the local dialect, but German speaking elders. There would be elders who would be asked to speak German for the local German population. And when you go to Entre Rios and some of the provinces in the northern, in the north of Argentina, there's still street signs written for the elderly people in German, just like you might see street signs written in Korean in Koreatown, and you might see street signs written for Chinese families in Chinatown or in Little Tokyo or wherever. There's these German enclaves in Argentina, and when you go to some of these places, it's wild, but you'll meet. Like there was this elderly woman in the Buenos Aires ward that I swear, I think she was one of like the first 100 people baptized in Argentina. And she was like born in the 20s, like Russell M. Nelson. She was already, if she were alive today, I think she'd be like 102 years old or something. She was one of those women that remembers, and she would tell stories about when all of Argentina was a district, district with a branch president. And the reason why it had formed was because the German families had written Salt Lake City. There was baptized members of the church in Germany that fleeing the famine had moved to South America. And with no presence of the church there, they said, can you send missionaries? Can you send missionaries? Can you send missionaries? And they started their own church basically in Buenos Aires. And then finally, by the time I believe it was the teens or the 20s rolled around, they sent Elder Ballard down there to dedicate the land south of the U.S. border for the preaching of the gospel in order to legitimize the missionaries there. So, I mean, the gospel is not 100 years old in Argentina. Sometimes we view it as being 200 plus years old or whatever the math is here when it was first vision was in 1820. So 203 or 4 years, give or take. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we view the gospel as being 190 to 200 years old. But in some of these places, the formation of the gospel is within living memory. Yeah. And these first baptized members are literal like pioneers in their localities that now have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of members. So yeah, that is super cool, man. I'm digging.
Well, it started with Billy Johnson, and then you add a little Luke Hansen. And Ghana's over 100,000 members at this point. They have 29 stakes.
What?
In Ghana. 29 stakes.
Okay, before we go, Luke, you got to tell me, what is it like serving in West Africa, in Ghana? Like, what is that like, dude?
All right, so I can throw some more into the day-to-day mission life, but I do have a couple of pictures in there that gives you a bit of a flavor of the religious life in Ghana. So, well, these mostly were Sierra Leone, actually, which is a few countries over, about a 2-hour plane flight. So Utah to Virginia, where I live, is the distance we're talking about here, even less than.
Okay.
But the first one that I put in, the one that you saw originally, Cardin.
Okay.
Latter-day Saint Mormons live here.
Yep.
You see that one?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up.
That one is just on. Is it up yet?
Yep, it's up now, right here, now.
Wow. So this building, somebody has made this like welded metal sign that says like Latter-day Saints Mormons live here. This is in the middle of the capital city of Sierra Leone. Like thousands of people walk past this thing every single day. Yeah.
You
So
could
people
never do this in Salt Lake City. They would Molotov cocktail the building. You know what I'm saying? Wow.
Yeah. So it's
Is it a
very
branch?
refreshing.
Is this a congregation where they meet?
No, it is not a church building.
Wow.
It's not some person was just proud of being a Mormon.
By the way,
And
I
so
totally
they welded it
found.
onto the front of their house in the capital city of the country.
No kidding.
I found the original picture that you were mentioning earlier. I realized I'd put up the wrong picture. Here's the old black and white picture that says the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Inc. So they made an ink out of it.
Yes.
Isn't that great?
Wow.
That's what they do.
Right?
They like to add flourishes onto things.
Really?
I love it. These guys, these people, the gospel was made for Africa. Like, so cool.
Oh, so for those of you who don't know, Elder Bednar loves Africa.
Okay.
And it's not just like, they have.
I love these guys, and I haven't even been there.
It's not just it's a cool climate and everything, but just the way that the people are. If you get a chance to go and be a part of the culture, you'll see that this John Dehlin postmodern religion has to explain itself and account for itself and why it's important. And we're going to nitpick all these things and find all these reasons. That's not there. They're very simple, and they don't approach life from a position of grievance and victimization. One of my areas was a 20-minute drive from one of the primary slave, debarkation points off to the rest of the world. Thousands and thousands of slaves go through these doors
those heartbreaking castles that they would actually.
And we took a tour, and they're in the dungeons, and they're just sitting there. They take a sample of the floor, and it's blood, barf, and poop is what the floor is made out of at this place. Horrible things, but they're not focused on that. They're not focused on who oppressed who and when did they did it and why is it bad. The number one thing I heard about slavery, and this is so non-PC that it's weird for even me to say it. The number one thing I heard about slavery in Africa was, it was terrible for our ancestors who got shipped across the ocean. But now we're still stuck here in Africa, and their descendants are over there enjoying in America.
Oh, man.
Whoa.
I don't know how I would digest that.
People. I just generally didn't respond to that. I was like, that is an observation that you have.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know if,
you just have to, it's not the US, okay? They're not us. They're their own thing, and it's awesome, and the church is just absolutely thriving there. Wow. Now, a lot of other stuff is thriving there too. You can get a flavor for the religious scene going on over there from the pictures that I put in the Discord, the other ones.
Okay, so I'm going to pull up a couple of other pictures, and while I'm pulling up, I will say that's also very interestingly enough. I can't remember the name of the apostle, but he was a mission president in Russia before, and he said they were very autodidactic people, always reading and educating themselves on the train, always nose in a book, and he said they were not obsessed with their poverty and had a wildly positive outlook despite the mountains of hardship they had gone through. And it was one of the most inspiring things he did was serving amongst the Russian people. I believe it was in the 60s or the 70s, the 70s or the 80s. But I'm looking for these pictures. You said, did you put them in the Discord?
Yeah, they should be in the Discord.
I see Luke Hansen here. They're like newspapers, right?
Yeah, so these are just plastered all over the place in the cities.
Okay, theme
and on the taxis.
Wow. Okay. Wow. And what are these that we're looking at?
Ads for different congregations, or
yeah. So I can't see what you're seeing. So which one are you on now?
I'm at the top. Says a theme: Tide in your village, suffering in the city, storms, Freetown, Sierra. Okay. So what is this we're looking at, Luke? Tell us.
Yeah, so this type of stuff is just all over. It says Storms, Freetown, Sierra Leone, in Christ Kingdom International Church, and Glory into Christian Fellowship, aka House of Prayer. They like to add on so many different things.
Yeah, okay.
With 3 days prophetic and miracle crusade. And then there's the theme. And then ministering Apostle George Odoku, Senior Pastor, House of Heroes Chapel International. And so there's just all sorts of these posters everywhere for like healing, prophets, events.
Dude, this is cool. It says prophetess Mrs. Faith Bayou, crusade coordinator. That's a calling. That's a calling we need. That's a calling we need in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I volunteer as tribute for crusade coordinator. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that meme that says, after careful consideration, I am reconsidering my religious zealousness. And it shows a crusader kneeling by his paladin's sword. You know what I'm saying? Like, holy smoke. Crusade coordinator just made my day. And we need that calling in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And the next picture, it says Aberdeen Resurrection Power Crusade. Wow, they really dig this whole crusade motif, don't they? Mm-hmm. And then the last one is the promised Messiah has arrived in Ghana and the world. Onyame Soma. The C's are backwards, I notice, and it looks like interesting.
Yeah, that's like their pidgin English language.
He cast out demonic spirit and bad spirit that destroy human beings' life.
Yep. He talks and it heard in any part of the world.
Wow,
pretty impressive.
So is that actually an altered grammar and grammatically correct, or is that just a misprint?
Kind of both.
Interesting.
They're kind of loosey-goosey with the grammar.
This is like the window of a car.
This is on like the back of a van, but they use it as a public transport.
This is like so cool.
City. And so those posters and flyers are everywhere. So you can understand why the Latter-day Saint Church doesn't seem that crazy compared to everything else going on over there. They're not too concerned about whether we have a Trinitarian formula and that should be kicked out of the community of believers because of it. It's rather refreshing.
Well, I was
the number one question. You think the number one question is, do I really have to pay tithing? You know, they have dirt floors in many cases. Like, no, the number one question is, why don't you guys play drums in your churches?
Really?
So it's just one of that. And I was never asked about the priesthood ban by an investigator. Yeah. People knew about it.
Really?
It's not like we're supposed to hide it. One anti-guy, it was like this anti-pastor, confronted us on the street and was trying to talk to us about it. Yeah. That was about it. That was about it.
Holy
smoke. So I was gonna say this is on a slightly more serious note, in Mosiah chapter 21.
Okay.
If you remember, there is a Billy Johnson. Remember King Limhi and his people were desirous to be baptized. This is Mosiah 21, 33, 34, 35. Remember this?
Okay, I'm
King
pulling it up right now.
Limhi wanted to be baptized, but there was none in the land that had authority from God, and Ammon declined to do this thing, considering himself an unworthy servant.
What's the verse we're in? I'm pulling it up right now.
This is Mosiah 21, chapter 21, verse 33, 34, and 35.
Okay, I got it on the screen.
King Limhi says, I have this whole congregation. We want to be baptized. But Ammon says, I don't have permission to do this. Therefore, they did not at that time form themselves into a church. Now, Billy Johnson, he won up to King Limhi and was like, I'm going to form my own church anyways.
Yeah, dude.
Be unofficial.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Inc. Like, that's even better, baby. You know what I'm saying?
He says they did not form themselves into church. They were waiting on the Lord. And finally, it's Alma, the elder, who baptizes King Limhi. So this is like King Limhi's grandson and Alma, the elder's grandson, becoming mission companions 2 generations later. This guy, Billy Johnson, these are amazing people. There are pioneers in Africa with legacies just as brilliant and amazing as any pioneers in the whole world. And their grandchildren are serving missions.
Yeah.
So,
all right. You know what I suggest we do? And that as the outro of this, I'm just going to put this picture that just made my day. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Inc. This picture, I want to go to Africa and find the original of this. Like, Luke, I'm going to hire you to be my guide. Okay. And we have to track down whatever member of the church has the original of this. And is Billy Johnson still alive?
No, he died in 2012.
Oh, bummer. Okay. So we're going to have to get as close to whoever took this picture or was a part of that conversation or of that congregation as we can and interview some locals there, because this is one of the coolest stories I have heard to date. So anyway, let's keep the conversation going, guys. Let us know what you guys think of this whole story and the growth of the church in Africa. And I got to say, as soon as these cats get back from their mission, we have got to interview Elder Ezra Labelle, all right, and Elder Martell Johnson. That is an absolute must on this channel. We want to get these guys in the studio and see if we can't have a fun conversation with them. And as always, it's been real and it's been fun and it's been real fun. For this and more, please check us out at wardradio.com.
This is gonna be the best day ever. This is gonna be the best day ever. Wake up, top of the morning. The bacon is crispy, the coffee is pouring. My meditation is peeling an orange. The bank says I'm already scoring. I got a parking spot right outside. Step into my brand new